bit of a formal process that we go through, but it's a very special thing. In this marquee this afternoon, there are, I think, 3 of us that are wearing these little things on our clothing. These are gold badges, and they're a very special thing because the English Folk Dance and Song Society occasionally gives a gold badge to someone for exceptional services to folk music. So John and Katie Howson over here have got them, and I've got one, and someone else is just going to get one. So what happens is that the formal bit is that I have to read the citation, which is about the recipient of this award. So after that, then we present the award, and then there's going to be a little bit of singing from some people in fairly formal dress. So this is the citation on the presentation of the Gold Badge of the English Folk Dance and Song Society to Vic Legg. Vic is... So this goes on forever because I wrote it. So there's 5 pages of it. Not really. Anyway, Vic Legg is a proper Cornish boy. He was born to a travelling family in 1941 in Launceston, where his granddad had settled. As Vic said, his horse was getting old and roads were being metalled, so he had a bungalow built on some land he already owned. Several other traveller families had already settled in Launceston. The family had been on the road until 1936. Vic's mother, Sophie, was born in 1918 and had not been inside a house until she was 16 years old. Sophie was the youngest of 6 children. Betsy, Charlotte, Jim, Fred and Eddie came before her. The family were travelling hawkers, and Vic remembers going to Bodmin police station with his granddad to renew his hawker's licence. Vic's dad was from South Cerney in Gloucestershire, the son of a millwright. Both father and son were mummers with South Cerney village mummers. Vic's dad had been a professional footballer, then worked in the electricity supply industry, which is what took him to Cornwall. He met Sophie in the Bell Inn in Launceston, and they were married in 1939. Vic reckons that it was his dad's singing that led to him being accepted by the travellers. Uncle Eddie, Vic's uncle, played accordion and banjo in the same pub, the Bell. A year after the war, the family settled in Bodmin. Vic remembers his mum carrying, this is just extraordinary to my mind, Vic remembers his mum carrying £3,000 in cash in a suitcase to complete the purchase of 7 houses. Isn't that amazing? It's another world. Vic spent the whole of his school life at the same school in Bodmin. He got a lot of stick from other children because of his traveller origins, but his granddad had been a prize fighter, a fairground prize fighter, and taught his grandson to look after himself. After school, he served his apprenticeship in Devonport and lodged in Plymouth. He lived in theatrical digs and slept on a camp bed in the sitting room. He remembers there being a lot of singing at home in the family. Everyone used to listen to As I Roved Out on the radio on Sunday mornings. During the last year of his apprenticeship, he heard that Cyril Tawney was running folk clubs in Plymouth, and Vic found that people were singing in the same style that he'd been grown up with. He was more into rock and roll and wasn't singing himself, but things changed in 1962 when he moved to a job back in Bodmin. He used to go to the celebrated Folk Cottage, and then in 1968 started a folk club in Bodmin with his friend Lark Hann and other local singers. They wanted somewhere in Cornwall that concentrated on traditional song. People like Charlie Bate, Bob Cann and the Bodmin Wassailers, who were over there, were made honorary members of the club. 3 years later, in 1971, Trig Morris was set up, led by Vic with Steve Danby and drawing members from the folk club. A year later, Trig went to dance in Ireland and met Willie Clancy in Milltown Malbay, just a few months before his death. Vic reckons that on the same trip, he and Steve Danby did a Morris jig and were almost taken hostage by the IRA. Despite that, they were keen to take their music and their dancing to other places and went on a memorable twinning trip to Brittany. If he needed a reminder of the specialness of his family's singing, it came in the 1980s when Bill Leader sent Pete Coe to record songs from Sophie Legg and her sisters. By the 1990s, word had spread about Vic and his songs, and he started to get invitations to sing at festivals and events across the country. He became a regular performer at festivals like Sidmouth, Dartmoor, Whitby, Warwick, Bromyard and Cornwall, which he helped move to Wadebridge from its original home in Falmouth. In 1996, he was booked for the first time to sing at Pinewoods in Massachusetts. Vic's singing, dancing and good-humoured garrulousness have brought immense pleasure to a great number of people, but perhaps the thing that has brought the longest lasting pleasure to him has been his association with the Bodmin Wassail. And I should say, after this presentation, the Bodmin Wassailers are going to come up and sing the two traditional songs that we normally sing. We sing one song when we arrive at a house and then another song when we leave, and you'll hear both of those songs at the end of this. Anyway, the Bodmin Wassail, we reckon, is the country's oldest visiting wassail. It takes place almost in secret on the 6th of January every year, and the earliest known reference to it is in 1624. And as far as we know, it's carried on year after year, every year since then. Vic first became aware of the wassail during his school days. Roger Bate was his mate at school, and Roger's father, Reg, was a wassailer. Vic was an errand boy for the international stores when riding his bike around the town when he first saw the wassailers, but it wasn't until the 1970s that he was invited to go out with them for the first time. Vic and La started at the same time, and the regulars were Reg Bate, Desmond Jago, Tommy Green Jr. and Charlie Wilson. And there's still a Green singing with us today. Not actually today, but nowadays. Peter Marlowe joined 2 years later, and he's here today. In those days, the wassailers only went out in the evenings, dressed in their customary hand-me-downs of top hat and tails, and visiting local houses and pubs. Then, as now, the people of the town were exceptionally generous with their gifts of food, money and drink. Particularly all of them. And actually, it has been known one year in these coats, they've got little secret pockets in some places, and Vic's little secret pocket was at the bottom of his tail, and he came out one year and thought, what's that in his coat pocket? And he discovered a pasty from the previous year's wassail. The wassailers were recorded by Peter Pilbeam for the BBC, and the recordings can be heard on the Topic's iconic Voice of the People series. Vic started the Charlie Bate Memorial Award, an annual award to perpetuate the memory of a man who did so much for folk music in Cornwall. Vic himself was to become one of the recipients, presented to him by the great Bob Can. This gold badge, it's here, and we're just coming to the end of this, you'll be pleased to know. This gold badge seems the most fitting tribute to a man who is surely the embodiment of all that is good about folk song and dance in Cornwall. Yeah. Vic Legg. Yeah!
enough gold in there, I think, to make myself a gold tooth. I've got one or two thank yous to say to people. First of all, to Steve Hunt for proposing me for this honour. And for the EFDSS for accepting his proposal. For Dartmoor Festival for allowing us to be presented it here. Wonderful. Now, thank you. When I first got the letter, I thought to myself, why me? Truly I did. And I thought that I was going to turn it down, but I had second thoughts, because I thought to myself, well, what exactly am I? And basically, I'm some of all your parts. Basically, that's what I am. I have to say thank you to people like you for being the person that I am. In particular, I can think of the way it started off, for me in particular, with Bodmin Folk Club and all its members and all the guests that came along. They all made me what I am. It was a tremendous club and still is a tremendous club. And also the Trig Morris, who I was a founder member of and been involved in. I would never have been to places like California or Bampton. Because Bampton is important to us. It's the people, really. And I wouldn't have met these people hadn't it been for Trig Morris and all the associates. On top of that, my wonderful friends in the Wassail, who I've been with for over 40 years. And they're men of the people. That's what they are. And that's what I like about folk music and folk song and all that goes with it. So here I am, a sum of the parts, really, that you've made me, and I'm very, very happy. Oh, I've nearly forgot. I have to mention, most importantly, my own family, who I've inherited a lot of songs from. And also for all the Romany Chals and travelling people throughout this nation that have given so freely of their music and their dancing and their singing, just for nothing, for everybody's pleasure and entertainment. And that is also part of me. So thank you. I shall wear this wonderful badge with all you folk in mind, because that's who I'm wearing it for you. Thank you.
So, here the Bodmin Wassailers, we're singing the two songs, the in song, which is the song we arrive at a house with, and then the out song when we go away.
He's forgotten he's leading it.
For singing wassail, 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 and Johnny come to our jolly wassail.
Here comes the ship out in full sail, sails the wide ocean in many a gale.
For singing wassail, 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 and Johnny come to our jolly wassail.
We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, buckets of cider and a cellar of beer.
For singing wassail, 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 and Johnny come to our jolly wassail.
Sometimes it's laurel, sometimes it's bay. Come fill up our bowl dish and we'll drink away.
For singing wassail, 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 and Johnny come to our jolly wassail.
If you've got an apple, I hope you got 10 to make some sweet cider against we comes again.
For singing wassail, 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 and Johnny come to our jolly wassail.
If Mrs. is sleeping, I hope she'll awake to go to the cupboard and bring us some cake.
For singing wassail, 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 and Johnny come to our jolly wassail.
If Master and Mrs. are sitting at ease, put your hands in your pockets and give what you please.
For singing wassail, 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 and Johnny come to our jolly wassail.
Come knock at the knocker and ring at the bell. I know you'll reward us for singing wassail.
For singing wassail, 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 and Johnny come to our jolly wassail.
Thank you.
Wassail, 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 I am joy, come to our jolly wassail.
This is our merry night for choosing king and queen. Then be it your delight that something may be seen in our wassail.
Wassail, 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 I am joy, come to our jolly wassail.
Is there any butler here or dweller in this house? I hope he'll take a full carouse and enter to our bowl in our wassail.
Wassail, 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 I am joy, come to our jolly wassail.
We fellows are all poor, can't buy no house, no land, unless we do gain in our wassail.
Wassail, 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 I am joy, come to our jolly wassail.
Our wassail bowl to fill with apples and good spice. Now grant us your good will to taste here once or twice of our wassail.
Wassail, 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 I am joy, come to our jolly wassail.
So
Now we must be gone to seek for more good cheer, where bounty may be shown, as we have found it here in our wassail. Wassail, 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 I am joy, come to our jolly wassail.
Happy New Year!
What about that, ladies and gentlemen? I can't think of a more worthy recipient than Vic Legg. And in fact, of all the things we put on Facebook, the post about his award was viewed by over 5,000 people, loads and loads of lovely comments. So he had the top poster this year. So congratulations to Vic Legg. Let's get a photo. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we've got another performance from Zeal, and for their second set they're going to perform a medley of Cornish dances which they learned in a workshop with Carmen Hunt, followed by a rapper dance which speaks for itself.